Do Ferrari strategists exist? Or do the Ferrari team and strategists actually watch the same Grand Prix that we do? Should it stay or should it go? That's the big question about Monaco. What is so special about the floor of the Red Bull? Was Ocon really the driver of the day? And who will make the biggest strides this weekend in Barcelona? And of course, it's double trouble in the studio. Let's go racing.
They exist in a world beyond ours. This is Formula One.
You know, I'm a little bit biased, but I really love that intro. Something very, very special about it. Welcome to the LGR F1 Show. There we go, LGR, and in the background, live from our bespoke studio here at the Menlyn Shopping Centre, the Suzuki pop-up store, and of course the show proudly brought to us by Suzuki and of course the Penta Motor Group. As you can see, my good friend Gary has managed to go through all of the problems of traffic to get you to Pretoria. Wonderful to see you, Gary. First question, but don't answer it right now. Who was your driver of the day at Monaco? Think about that for a couple of minutes. Okay. This weekend it is the Spanish Grand Prix. It should be very intriguing besides the track changes. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But let's talk about Monaco, not the driver yet. Big question that came out over the weekend on a lot of people's lips, Gary. Should the Monaco Grand Prix stay or should it be off the calendar? What's your thought?
So, I mean, look, for the first half an hour or first hour of the Grand Prix, you probably say, wow, you know, what are these cars doing here? Massive cars on this tiny little track and what have you. But it turned out okay in the end from a race point of view. But, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, you're coming off the back of Miami, which was incredible. I don't think we've Formula One has seen a show like that in its history, with how they presented it to the American public and to everybody else watching around the world. It was huge. But at the end of the day, you know, Monaco is, we were speaking about just now, I mean, the best way to describe it, it's an advert for Formula One.
Yeah.
You know you're not going to go there and have a good race most of the time. It's not, I mean, these cars have been driving around there since the 50s. The track hasn't evolved. It can't evolve to anything else, basically. But it's still, it's critical. You know, a Formula One without Monaco, for me, is not Formula One. And, you know, America is cruising along right now. Everything else is growing like it is. Is it a fad? Is it going to drop off the edge of the cliff? We don't know. But all you know is Monaco's been there from the beginning, and it just holds an enormous amount of weight in Formula One.
Yeah, there's something. The Monaco Grand Prix. It's so magical because of the surroundings. You know, the Miami. I agree. The festivities were different to what we have, but here you have real boats and real water.
Real water, exactly.
And then you have a guy with a yacht and then his F40s on the back of it. It is so unbelievable. Yet, when it comes to the racing point of view, it's very frustrating because we all know that it's so difficult to overtake at Monaco. And yes, if we get safety car, if we get a little bit of rain that we had towards the end of the race, yes, it does make it a little bit more exciting. But you just have to appreciate the fact that it's Monaco, and the driver's skill is something that I think a lot of people don't really appreciate as much, Gary, because I don't think there was one driver who didn't at least touch a wall somewhere along the line just to be on the limit.
Exactly, and I think the level is so high now in Formula One, and you can see, as you said, everybody doing it. I mean, it just shows you just where these drivers are at, and there's so many of them at that level now.
Yeah.
So it's become really good at this point in time in Formula One, or stand out. I think it's actually very difficult because the general standard is what it is, and you can see it at a place like Monaco, as you said, you know, and how close they're getting to the barriers. I mean, you can't underestimate just how difficult and what precision and just what it takes to be able to put that car, and nothing's ever the same. You know, you also got to remember, it's not, well, now I've got it dialed in and that's what we're going to do there. The track changes, the tyres are changing, and it's changing. So to be able to do it lap after lap is actually quite incredible. But yeah, it's just it's got to be there for me. And another thing you can't lose with Formula One, or you know, any sport if you're into it for that matter, but the history of it, and what it is, and that's what built the sport and contributed to the sport being what it is today. It's part of the history, and that's the one thing that Formula One's got to be careful. I know we spoke about a lot of stuff last week about the new management and the way that Formula One's going, but you can't lose the history and the essence of Formula One. It's got to stay.
It's got to stay. I totally agree. The reason this has come up, and is the reason why there's so much debate about Monaco, because of this man. Have a look at him. His name is Michel Boeri. Okay. And he is, well, has been the president of the Automobile Club of Monaco in the French term or whatever since 1972. Okay. And this, Gary, might be just an element of ego, saying, well, you know, we are Monaco, and, you know, this is either what you accept or you don't. However, Mr. Boeri is now under the cosh of the Prince. The Prince has actually intervened and said, perhaps it's time for Mr. Boeri to move on and other younger thinkers to come into the game. So I think, honestly, if this Mr. Boeri moves out, I think the future will go way beyond 2025.
It needs to. And listen, a change, you know, that sort of reminds you of the Balestre
yes,
days.
Correct. Well, hold on. That we do a whole show. Lots of new viewers, young viewers as well. Jean-Marie Balestre, who used to be the president of the FIA. And that is an intriguing show on its own.
Yeah,
we could do a series.
You could.
Yeah, okay.
You could.
Let's
There's 12 months there.
Yeah.
But, you know, so, yeah, I think you've got to adopt a new way of thinking, but you just got to, you know, as I said, you know, what else can you, you're limited in Monaco to what it is, the track, the space, everything else that goes with it, but it's in Monaco. You know, what else do you really need?
Agreed. I forgot to give you the WhatsApp line. So, Fritz, my apologies. Please can we put the WhatsApp strap? And also, I'd like you to tell us who was your driver of the day from the Monaco Grand Prix. So send that on the WhatsApp line or on the Facebook line. Lots of messages coming through. We'll get through those in a short while. Okay, that's a little off-track stuff. On the track, Max Verstappen. And you get your Max lovers and you get your Max haters, just as you've had it with Lewis Hamilton. You've had it with Sebastian Vettel. You've had it with Michael Schumacher. You had it with Senna. Some of those you never had, like people who really hated, were Kimi Räikkönen, Mika Hakkinen, the two Finns. Prost, I don't think so too much.
Yeah, maybe not, but yeah.
Maybe not, but not as exemplified.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you either like Max or you don't like Max. Max Verstappen's performance in Monaco, and yes, we know he's got a very, very good car. But Gary, that doesn't tell the whole story about how good Max Verstappen really is.
You know, you just got to look at how I think Max in the last 3 years has come on. He's hit another level. There's no two ways about it. To make the tyres last the way that they did, waiting for the rain. You know, he knows exactly what he's doing out there right now. And then, of course, when the rain came down, I think that's when you saw shades of, listen, dare I say it, maybe Senna or whoever, but I mean, the car sliding around, and he drove away from everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite simple. I think, look, it'll be difficult to call now because it's still during his career and what have you. And, you know, we were talking about, we lived through the Schumacher era, Max has got to be in the top couple of drivers in Formula One, all-time greats.
Yeah. No, I concur. I've already put him in my top 5 all-time greatest drivers that we've seen in Formula One. Just another brilliant performance, and another, dare I say, nail into Sergio Perez's title chances.
Yeah.
This was a race, and you know, you sometimes you have to, I won't say accept defeat, but just sit and say, hold on a second. What is that term where damage limitation? Damage limitation. Perez had the chance to sit there and say, you know what, around this specific street circuit, Max has got an edge on me. Don't try and push it, because if you do, you're going to put it in the wall. Get onto the front row or third or whatever. Damage limitation, get the points. He overdrove it, cooked the car.
And I think pretty unacceptable.
Yes.
You've got the best car there. So you know for sure it's second on the grid is going to be the likely position you're going to start.
Yeah.
The fact is Monaco starts on Saturday afternoon, and you cannot afford to go and do what he did qualifying, we all know, is everything in Monaco.
And that was one of the most brilliant qualifying sessions we've ever seen.
Yeah. So, and he just didn't get it all together. He didn't get it right. And you can't afford to do that, not when you're driving a car of that level, at the level that the Red Bull is at right now. And as you said, the expectations were maybe a bit too high. I mean, who was he going to beat? You know, he needed to beat Max. As you said, he wasn't going to beat Max. We all knew that. He knew it as well. But you crashed yourself basically beating everybody else.
And when your teammate comes away with 25 points and you come away with 0, then you know that's a big issue.
And then gaining the race, you know, throwing away a potential top, you know, getting into points at least.
Yeah.
And didn't make it happen.
Yeah, 100%. All right. We can't speak enough about Fernando Alonso, and it's always great to speak about Fernando in such a positive light. Another remarkable drive and performance. I mean, never mind in the race, the car isn't as quick as Red Bull. But man, to stick that car in second ahead of Leclerc was outstanding. And then from there, just realized, you know, he's got to do his race, got to get to the end of 78 laps around Monaco. He just is, you just can't believe that this guy's having so much fun and being so quick.
Exactly, and at the age that he's at. And we spoke about the level of Formula One just now. In this era, when everyone's got what they've got at their disposal, the amount of simulation, etc. I mean, gee whiz, it's an exceptional situation right now. And it actually seems that Alonso has actually come back stronger this year than he has been for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
Really good. And I just, his hunger is something to be admired. You know, at that age, to have made what he's made out of Formula One in terms of championships, monetary, whatever you want to call it, and still be that hungry, I think is exceptional. But I think he also knows, for example, that he knew he should have been, Perez should have been Alonso on the weekend. He knew he wasn't going to beat Max, but he knew what job he had to do to get the best result, and he did exactly what Perez should have done.
Yeah, 100%. And now all of a sudden he's creeping closer to Perez. He's not that far off. Formula One is a strange game, and you know, crazy stuff can happen. But Alonso's just chipping away. We've had six races or 7 races, 6 races down. He's been on the podium 5 times. He scored brilliant points. I mean, he's doing a phenomenal job. Okay, let's get to the driver of the day. I'm going to ask you, Gary, in a couple of moments. Let's go through a couple of messages that have come through here this morning. I mean, this evening. I don't know where I am. Good evening.
It's Thursday, by the way.
Yes, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. Tulo, nice to hear from you. Tulo, let's go. Euclid, good evening. Shasha and Gary, I'm first. No, you were second. Angelo from Cape Town, nice to hear from you. Ferrari strategists are a myth. They're imaginary. We'll get to that a little later. Tulo says Monaco is the only race on the F1 2021 PS5 game that I couldn't complete a lap without crashing. That just goes to show how difficult it is even on that. Quite simply, Monaco is Monaco. Diane, lovely to hear from you. Hi there. Rika, I would say Monaco is purely his driver's ability to drive. Robin says, good evening. Thank you, Howard. Not a Hamilton fan, Rika says, but he had a good drive. He had the fastest lap several times during the race, so he's my driver of the day, Lewis Hamilton. Max, he drives with conviction. Max is great. There's always going to be drivers like him. Alonso's having a brilliant season. So driver of the day, 2 of them for Max. Okay. The driver of the day, according to the television people who come out, they gave it to Esteban Ocon. Now, it was great to see Alpine up there, because I also, quite a few shows ago, I said, watch out for Alpine. They are going to get this thing right or whatever. It was great to see Ocon up there, Frenchman in Monaco. Wonderful for him, and Gasly getting into the points as well. But I don't choose him as my driver of the day. You go for?
I'll go for Max. I'll go for Max because he did everything he needed to do in Monaco. Qualified well, started well, looked after the tyres exceptionally well, changed to the wets at the right time, drove away from everybody in the wet. It's difficult to look at anybody else for me.
All right. Giuseppe says Fernando Alonso. Lynette says tricky in the rain. Max, well done. There we go. My driver of the day from Monaco is actually Lando Norris. And the reason I say it was Lando Norris is, number one, I mean, they qualified as best as they can. He finished in the points in 9th place. But when they were on the intermediate tyre, the only person who was matching the same times as Max Verstappen was Lando Norris. And I sat and went, man, that just shows that this kid has got some incredible skill. So, Lando, if you're watching, there we go. Thumbs up to you. If you're not watching, well, somebody pass on the message. But amazingly, everyone that we've asked, nobody went for Ocon.
Yeah, I mean, it's a circumstantial thing. He
Yes.
did well to keep the car on the track. Yes, all good and well, but there was nothing
Dramatic
exceptional
about it.
there, no.
Max, you can sit there and go. Alonso, you can sit there and go. Ocon, my problem with Ocon was when the race was dry, it was Max and Fernando, and then we had Ocon, and it reminded me of who was the guy who held up Coulthard forever. He was also Esteban.
Enrique
Benaldi,
Yeah.
who held up, and Ocon just held up everybody.
Yeah.
And then, well, we'll get to Ferrari strategy right now, actually. Let's get to Ferrari strategy. And Ferrari strategy should have pounced, and they should have done the undercut or overcut on Esteban Ocon. They could have done it, and yet they cocked it up royally yet again. And let's just have a look at what Carlos Sainz was so furious about. And this just doesn't make any sense. I don't care. Ferrari, Sainz exploded, saying he didn't care about Lewis Hamilton. So the problem, this is what happened for those, you know, we forget races very, very quickly. Ocon went into the pits, okay, and then they left Sainz out. So he went in to go and change onto normal slick tires. Sainz was out there. Sainz for the next lap was a second quicker than Ocon, so 2 laps later, and they called him in.
Yeah.
And then they said, no, we were trying to, we didn't want to get undercut by Hamilton.
And they lost the World Championship like that.
Exactly. They lost it with Alonso.
Yeah.
They lost it with Vettel.
Yeah.
With Ferrari.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and I went, you're now worried about the guy behind you, but you could have pounced the guy in front of you. And the Ferrari in the dry weather was much quicker than it was in the wet weather. He could have maybe put some pressure on Alonso, who then could have put some pressure on Verstappen. All ifs and buts.
Yeah.
But yet another royal, classic mess-up by Ferrari strategy where you go, and as I said, are they watching the same race? Or do they have like somebody fiddling with their computers that they don't know what they're watching?
It's difficult to understand. You know, it's not people that have been around. These are not stupid people that are in Formula One. But just difficult to understand because, you know, sometimes you do feel watching the race on TV that, you know, do these guys know something we don't know? But I don't think that they do because they're not making the right calls. It's as simple as that. And it's got to become frustrating for Ferrari as a company.
Yeah, of course.
For Fiat, Chrysler, Fiat that own Ferrari. Geez, guys, you've had a fast car. You had a car last year capable of winning the championship.
Yes.
And you would have thought after last year things would have changed or something would have got better. But it's just when the chips are down, that's when the problems arise. You know, other teams, Red Bull, even Mercedes for that matter, maybe on days when you shouldn't be winning Grand Prix, they managed to win Grand Prix or they managed to do exceptional in the Grand Prix out of the strategy. Ferrari haven't really bewildered us with strategy since the days of Schumacher and Ross Brawn, I've got to be honest with you. That was when it was at its absolute peak. Different time, different type of Formula One, but still, strategy was key in it. They're missing elements in the team. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem. Then Frederic Vasseur came out and said, you know, people shouldn't be critical of the pace of the Ferrari in Monaco. No, we'll get to that in a short while. But Vasseur, you know, says Monaco's pace. So Gary, in the dry, we couldn't really see their pace because both Sainz and Leclerc were stuck behind cars, so we didn't really know their real pace. But the worrying part for me was in the intermediate phase. Ferrari were at times 2 seconds slower than the likes of Max Verstappen, the likes of Lando Norris. And I don't recall them being that stuck behind drivers because when I was looking at the timing sheets, the driver in front of Sainz was quicker. The driver in front of Leclerc was quicker as well. So they definitely have got to be concerned about this whole Ferrari package.
Yeah, I think so. I think that when I actually thought about this last week, you know, for a guy like Leclerc, I think he's championship material for sure. But I think even he's got to be asking himself the question: will this ever happen with Ferrari?
Yeah. Not easy. Okay, so that was Monaco besides the floor. We'll get to that in a short while. Coming up, we have some news. And if you heard a little bit of noise, we've actually closed the doors. We're across the way from the cinemas in the Menlyn Shopping Centre. So if you're in the area anytime on a Thursday night before a Grand Prix, come in and say hello. And who knows, maybe our wonderful salespeople will sell you a Suzuki as well. And they've got motorbikes.
They do.
They've got motorbikes as well.
I sat on the bike just now.
Did you?
Quite nice. I don't know what it is, but it felt quite
Freaking nice. I'm just not very good on two wheels. Yeah,
I remember that.
Yes, you do. Yeah. This right ankle remembers it exceptionally well as well. Okay, some news. Big news. Red Bull have lost Robert Marshall. He's going over to the McLaren team. There are a lot of musical chairs in the terms of personnel. A lot of people leaving Red Bull, some of them going to Ferrari. We've got people leaving Ferrari that are going through to Mercedes and to McLaren. It's that kind of time of the year that these things do happen. But this is a big signing for McLaren. Rob Marshall, highly respected, and he's going to McLaren as their technical director, working under Andrea Stella. So not the best year that they're having at the moment, McLaren, and they do acknowledge that, Gary, but going forward, I think is a very good step and a great person to have on within the team.
Yeah, I think so. And listen, being in the UK, everybody's around the corner from each other, really. So opportunities are arising. But I think signings like that are important for Zach Brown, actually.
Yes.
Because I think it's at the point now where Zach must be starting to the pressure must be mounting from the shareholders in that business, because they haven't delivered what they were expected to.
I'm glad you bring that up, because you sit there and he came in, with so much gusto and here we go, this, that, and whatever, and you're going, okay, Zach, you've got this team, you've got Lamar that's going on, you've got Indy. Are you spreading yourself actually just a little bit too wide and not focusing too much? And that could be a bit of an issue. And I agree, it's not Zach Brown's team, it's people who've invested a huge amount of money. They want results.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, now, back to Ferrari. Charles Leclerc says, well, Ferrari just isn't fast enough. It's that simple. I'm sure he was incredibly disappointed. He got the 3-place grid penalty in Monaco, but he did fight back through the pit stops to eventually finish ahead of his teammate. Not the weekend, as we said last week, it's his nemesis track. Just something always goes wrong. Again, Ferrari strategy gave him the 3-place penalty. They should have told him, by the way, Lando Norris is behind you and he's on a fast lap. I mean, that could have been a horrible accident in the tunnel as well. So Ferrari, just Leclerc saying, car's not fast enough. But the huge news over the weekend, Gary, and who would have thought that, with Ferraris on people's yachts, and I mean, just the scenery, the photographs we saw from the helicopters, just something out of this world, and the whole world went mad for a plank, a floor in a car, and 2 of them were lifted into the sky. Lewis Hamilton had his little off, and they had to crane it up into the sky, and then Perez went off, and there's Perez's car, lofted into the sky, and as opposed to people taking pictures of beautiful people and champagne glasses and beautiful yachts, that's what people took photographs of, Gary. The floor of this car.
So if you had to speak to anybody that works in the technical side in Formula One, I think that it wouldn't matter where they were, as long as they could see that.
As long as they could see that car.
And look, I suppose you'd look a little less at the Mercedes floor.
Yes.
But the big one,
you've got to look at the Red Bull car, because everyone is saying, that the Red Bull is really that fast because of the floor.
And listen,
but you've got to have all of the other components.
You've got to have it all together. But in this ground effect era now, this new ground effect era, the floor has become critical in making these cars work. I mean, just to take it back last year when we saw the porpoising, that was all the air that was not working well enough underneath the car and creating drama. It was all happening underneath there. These cars rely on the floor now to generate the downforce and make the car work. So I do think, definitely, there were people studying that Red Bull floor on Monday morning in almost every other Formula One team other than Red Bull. And I would have, if I was Christian Horner, I would have been quite stressed about having my car up in the air there, because that's where all your money is. That's where all the money is, right underneath there.
It's all behind because of that floor. We've got the Mercedes floor as well. So Yeah, let's have a look. We've seen the Red Bull floor, which is just beautiful. I mean, you know, it should be in the Louvre. No, I'm only kidding. So we
no,
should
but they are
have,
pretty. I mean,
yes,
I'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
honest with you.
No, if you look at them
into cars
intricately.
and you look at all that work and
Yeah.
how it all put together, I mean, it is
look at that.
absolutely. And we're not talking about the plank there. I mean, we're talking about what's next to it there and how you see the channel, the air channel through underneath, and all the little veins and what have you. That's the artistry there.
Yeah, no, it is. And then we managed to actually put the two of them together. Okay, there we go. Now we've got the two of them together over there, and we can see the planks are basically the same. All the pictures, there we go. The planks are basically the same, but it's all the intricate details underneath. And of course, it all starts in the front.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all got to do with the front wing and the suspension and where that air goes.
And then it goes all the way through.
All the way
and
through,
then
and how it goes out.
How it goes out also creates the downforce. So the plank, I mean, if it's the first time you've ever seen it, the plank is just there to control the ride-out of the car. So there's a ride-out restriction, whatever the ride-out is, and the plank then allows them to monitor and stick to the ride-out. But the rest of it is, as I said, that's the important bits, right next to that plank in front of and back of it.
You know, those people who've got those high-lens Canon cameras at Grand Prix or whatever, they would have been clicking that for days. And
it was worth a lot of money for somebody.
That was plenty with the best picture of it. Whether people can change that fast or sit there and pick up ideas, time will tell. But I think you surely will pick up something.
If you know what you're doing and you're doing that every day and you're designing, surely there's got to be some information there.
Without a doubt. Okay, what of Alfa Romeo? Right in the first show of the season, I said, listen, I don't predict that Alfa Romeo are going to have a spectacular season. And my reasoning for that is that the Sauber team is basically owned by Audi now. Alfa Romeo there, and why go and put all of this development and your IP for another company? So I didn't expect much from Alfa Romeo, but now the talk is, and this makes a lot of sense to me, is that Alfa Romeo might become the title sponsor for the Haas team next year. And Gary, it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's all the Ferrari components. It's the brand of Alfa Romeo, which is owned by the Stellantis group. And they're right next to each other. I mean, Haas have got their own team built in Maranello.
It's really a no-brainer.
Yeah. Got to do it.
Yeah.
Got to become Alfa Romeo next year. Haas, Alfa Romeo, whatever it is, something like that. I hope it does happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it would be very, very good. All right, coming up next, we look to Barcelona. All right, welcome to back to the show. Of course, the show brought to you compliments of Suzuki, South Africa, and the Penta Motor Group, and we're live in our beautiful studio right here in the Menland Shopping Centre in the pop-up store with lots of Suzukis around here. Actually, there's a Grand Vitara over there, which I'm going to be driving in 2 weeks' time, going up to the game reserve.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just don't tell anyone.
Okay.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, welcome back. Barcelona, this week. To millions of people, including myself, I was overjoyed when they announced that they had taken away that silly little chicane at the end of the lap into the last corner, and now we have a full loop. There we go, Gary. That chicane is gone. You're a racing driver. What difference is that going to make?
Oh, I mean, look, I've been to the track a few times. So, I mean, those last two corners, you know, the one at the top of the hill, the first ride, and the second one, the last one going to the pit straight, you know, beautiful corners. I mean, you've seen in MotoGP, they still use those two.
Yes.
They haven't stopped using those corners. I mean, it's great. And it's really the exciting stuff. So, you know, we kind of went down that road where everything was being slowed down and chicanes were being put in there. But then again, as I said last week, we had Jeddah and all these Baku arriving on the scene flat out in between walls. And then you wonder to yourself,
No, we're worried about a chicane.
You know, what are we taking a right-hand corner away from at a proper racetrack with runoff area? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you know, and I sit and think, had they had that foresight, a track like Paul Ricard, if you have it in its original guise, which is still there, but just run it properly, then you'd have a really great circuit as opposed to, as you say, the slow corners and let's take the chicanes
They're quite boring, I'll be honest with you. Those slow corners,
Are they?
Anybody can really do it. There's a point of entry, braking, and you're going to go.
Bang, bang,
fast
bang,
corners
is what it's about. That's
you know?
what it's about. Okay, so but not every. Well, let's have a look at the take of some of the drivers about the new changes. It is quite small, so I'll actually read it to you. Alex Albon hopes the changes will benefit the Williams team. Get rid of the slow speed corners, exactly what Gary said, and we'll be good. I think we will be okay. I hope the racing is better. We need a circuit where we can overtake. Good stuff. Lando Norris, of the complete opposite opinion to Lewis Hamilton. He said even more physicality on the neck. So I'm not looking forward to it. Whether it makes the racing better or not, I hope so. It's a tricky last corner, to be honest. It's not going to be flat out. That's interesting.
But that's what you want. You don't, want it to be easy flat out, and you want it to be. You have to be able to drive through there. You know, and I don't think Lando's actually driven on the old track, to be honest. In his career, he would have had the chicanes all along. But no, the tyre wear dimension is exactly right. We all know that left front in Barcelona, those two corners are what the two of the contributing corners to putting the amount of wear on the front left, and as well as the just long turn two.
Exactly.
No, it just makes it interesting.
And I mean, it always reminds me of Tamburello.
Yeah.
You know, you come into Tamburello at Monza and you think you're going to go flat out, and then you can't. You've got to scrub off, and it's just amazing. Lewis Hamilton said, yes, I never liked the chicane. I never liked it, and now we will come out of turn 12. We'll probably be flat through the last two corners. It's going to be great for not going to be great for our necks. Or for tyre wear, yes, but it is going to be pretty fun. So Lewis thinks it could be flat out. Lando doesn't. We'll find out this weekend.
Exactly.
But I think it's great that we have this much higher speed corner at Barcelona.
And it just brings Barcelona back to what Barcelona was all along, you know. I mean, they're important corners. You go from this, I mean, let's think about it. You go from corners that are possibly going to be flat, which you know they may or they may not be now, to these ultra-slow chicanes. I mean, that's just destroying a circuit.
I agree. Hey, Sean Dumini. Hello, Mr. Martininga and Mr. Formaggio.
How's it going?
There we go. Rika says, Ferrari used to win championships with pit stops. That's a little... well, fair enough. And unfair
when in
enough.
Schumacher's day.
Yeah, it must have been in Schumacher's day. The other point, Gary, let's bring this up now. I was sitting and thinking, you know, should we go through all of the upgrades that all of the teams are bringing? And I think it's a bit more too technical. I think we'll get that all from all of the commentary during the course of this weekend. But is this Grand Prix, which you know we thought was going to happen at Emilia-Romagna at Imola, is this a make or break for a lot of the teams in terms of their pursuit to try and close the gap or match something of Red Bull?
I think what we'll see, you know, and we had the Grand Prix cut short, as you just said. This track is going to give you a very good indication of just who's got what kind of car. Very dependent as well. I mean, Formula 1 is everywhere, but I mean, it's really, you know, you're going to see who's going to be able to look after the tyres aerodynamically, how the cars are going to balance. So I think this track will give us a clear indication as to where we're going to go for the rest of the year. And I kind of got an idea what's going to happen, but I don't really want to say it. But the good cars are going to be very good here, put it that way.
They are going to be very, very good here. I think it was, we'll get to that point as well. Amazingly, the first pictures came out from Barcelona track side today, and one of the pictures that came out was of the Ferrari garage, same nose as last week, car in the background, same from last week, but they're expecting big changes because this is the big one for Ferrari as it is for all of those. They anticipate, well, those in the know anticipate that the Ferrari sides are going to be very similar to Red Bull. So we're in for it. I think we're going to see very dramatically different cars this weekend. But this weekend, it is all about the Spanish paella, beautiful Barcelona. And, of course, we do have two Spanish drivers. The one is the Ferrari driver, Carlos Sainz. Must be feeling a little bit frustrated, Gary. Carlos Sainz qualified ahead of his teammate even through default in Monaco, but Charles got the better of him in the race. Do you think he's under pressure?
The pressure is going to come from himself, and I think it's another situation similar to what we spoke about with Perez and and Max. You know, not the difference, the gap not as big maybe, but in my opinion anyway, Max plays a supporting role in the team, and I think if there's going to be a chance to win races and consistently win races, it's going to be with Leclerc. On his day, for sure, the Sainz can have a go. He'll be there, but you've got to not put too much pressure on yourself, and I think this is where the management comes in, managing your own expectation, you know, as to where you are within your team and within the sport in general, and that's always the most difficult job.
Very, very good point. Of course, all of the tickets were already sold out for Barcelona, but I think with the rise and continuing rise of Fernando Alonso, had they not been sold out, they would have been completely sold out. And I mean, he was the first ever Spanish champion. He's much loved. He's had his ups and downs in his career after his wins with Renault. But you can, whether they're going to be waving green, whatever, there are going to be thousands of Alonso fans this weekend.
No doubt about it. And you know, you have to have been a champion. Yes, there'll be Carlos Sainz fans or whatever, but you've got to be a champion. And as you said, and you know, he trailblazed a lot of, you know, you set the course for a lot of Spanish drivers. There were hardly any Spanish drivers in Top Line Motorsport.
Pedro de la Rosa came, you know, Alonso,
you know, Carlos Sainz, and then you've got Polo Racing, IndyCar, and all these Spanish drivers that are coming through the system. I mean, Alonso's done a lot for the sport in Spain.
Without a doubt. However, Alonso is not very optimistic about this weekend. He believes genuinely that that Red Bull are just going to run away, even with all of the teams' updates that are going to come. You know, because don't forget, I mean, Red Bull are also going to come with updates. It's not as though they're going, oh, well, here's our car. And with the budget cap, Gary, it's not as though also, you know, let's go back to the floor. Everyone studies the floor and says, oh, my word, that's actually what we need to do. And you go, but now we've redesigned the side pods and we've redone this and redone that. We've run out of money, and you don't want to get into that position again. But Alonso still believes that Red Bull going to run away with this Grand Prix.
I have to agree with him. I mean, as I was saying, I think I know how it's going to turn out, and we'll see. Listen, we could all be totally wrong, but I think the chances are unlikely. The car is exceptional. I think this is where it'll actually come into its own more than ever so far this year, and we'll really see what it is.
Because, you know, for those who may be relatively new to the sport, Barcelona, for the best part of the last 15 years, Gary, has been the testing ground for all of the Formula One teams. Now we do most of the testing in Bahrain. But in those days of testing, all of these teams know that track meter by meter, how it works, what the degradation on the tires, which car, where it gets under load. So if your car goes well in Barcelona, you basically have a car that's pretty good anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So it could be a little bit of an issue. We have a surprise in our midst, and it's our beautiful Miss Eva Green. I think she's here. She's just popped in to say hello. There she is. She's not going to be at Barcelona. I have it on good authority. She's not going to be at Barcelona. But
where's she going to be?
I'm not allowed to divulge.
Okay.
If I tell you, I have to kill you.
Okay.
One of those. Okay. There we go. The obligatory Eva Green picture for the show. Anyway, tyres, degradation, weather could all be a factor this weekend. Let's start off on the tyres. Pirelli go with the 3 compounds, the 1, 2, and 3, which are the hardest of each of the compounds. But Gary, this car can be notorious for degradation, especially on the the left front.
Yeah, left front, exactly. I mean, there's so many in the corners for a long time. You know, these longer corners. As I said, you've got to have the balance right. You know, any little bit of understeer that comes in is going to start eating the tire. So it's a nice Grand Prix in that sense, because you've got to be able to manage all those things, set the car up, but drive it correctly, all that sort of stuff. I think I think it's a nice track. But I just want to just go back quickly to Max and how he looked after those tires in Monaco.
Correct.
Different sort of track. But I mean, the guy's got a lot of ability. He's thinking all the time, driving in a way that's going to help the car, help the tire. I just really believe that this week he just got his name written all over it.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a lot of rumor and talk about it that, you know, this is a season that Red Bull sit and think, well, could we win every single Grand Prix? We've only 7 in.
And it normally jumps out of bed when you say something like that.
Yes,
and
something happens. You go, what is he talking about? What do they know? What do they know? Let's have a look at the circuit again. We saw it on the two changes of the circuit, but there we go. We've got the two DRS zones. But that turn 14, Gary, 12 and 13 and 14, going to be a tremendous amount of fun, whether or not they can get through their flat, and especially in qualifying, because if they can try and go for it flat, I mean, qualifying could be amazing.
Well, I mean, you've got this massively long straight.
Yes.
After the last turn. So you've got to get it right, whether it means a slight lift or whatever it is that you've got to do to get through
Otherwise,
there.
you're going to lose out.
Or if you're trying to go too much through there and you lose it a little bit, you're going to ruin the entire straight. So it's become a critical corner now on the circuit.
It is going to be outstanding. Monaco, and amazingly, last week we were talking about the weather, and I said, depends which weather forecast you look at. And we had all of these satellite things over the weekend. But on the show here, the graphic we showed you said there was going to be rain.
You did.
There we go. Now, amazingly, from the prophets of the weather bureaus around the world, what does it say? Rain, 80% chance. So, well, that's at 10 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock in the morning. However, there could be a good chance that there is rain either before the race or during the race on Sunday.
Well, let's see what happens. We're pretty spot on last time. This is good, so I'm going to go with you on it. So you make the call on if it's going to rain or not. But it takes me back to that amazing Michael Schumacher win.
Remember?
In Spain, in the rain.
In
the rain in Spain, whatever the hell of it is.
Yeah, the rain in Spain falls mainly on Michael Schumacher. His first ever win for Ferrari.
Yeah, that's right.
1996. You just sat there and went, where's this guy? Well, we knew his pedigree, but he came into a team that had won 3 races in the last 3 years. And he won 3 races in 1 season. That tells you something about the guy. Yeah, it was quite amazing. We've had some amazing races. We've had that heartbreak for Mika Hakkinen. 5 corners to go and his clutch went.
Yeah, exactly.
And Schumacher went on to win it. I mean, so Spain has given us some. Pastor Maldonado's won.
Yeah, exactly. He's won and only win.
Ahead of Fernando Alonso.
That's right. That's right.
So, you know, it does throw us some wonderful, and I think with taking that chicane out is also going to add a different element, a different kind of spice as well. All of the action, of course, starts tomorrow on your TV. These are all the South African times. We start at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon to 2:30. Afternoon practice 5 until 6. Then 12:30 to 1:30 free practice 3. Qualifying is 4 through until 5. The race on Sunday will be at 3 p.m. Of course, anything can happen. Gary, I think I know, just listening to you, I think I know where you think this race is going to go, and looks like Max's to lose or Red Bull's to lose. Do you think anybody can challenge, let's say, a Sergio Perez? Do you think Alonso and Aston could have updates that can challenge that? Or Ferrari? Or Mercedes? You know, because Mercedes, actually, they brought the upgrade to Monaco. Not the best track to highlight it, but they're pretty confident with what they've got.
You must say, I have to agree with you on that. If there's any one team that's going to jump themselves up the grid, it is going to be Mercedes-Benz. You've got Mercedes-Benz, the team. You've got Lewis Hamilton, George Russell.
Yeah.
There's a strong package there. They haven't got the numbers right in the last year, and now it's not where they used to be or what they should be. But out of all the teams that can turn around, I believe that they would be the team that can do it best. Yeah,
there we go. So watch out, Max Verstappen maybe versus Mercedes-Benz, and then who knows with Aston and Ferrari and the rest. Gary, always great to see you.
Love it to be here.
Enjoy the Grand Prix.
You too.
Yeah. There we go. Listen, thanks for all of the comments. We will get through those a little bit. Rubens is Brazilian. Yes, we know that. Did we say Rubens? I don't remember. Okay. Okay, sorry, I'll go through all of the comments.
We're getting old, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we missed something. I could have said something. We'll get through those comments during the course of this evening. Listen, enjoy the Grand Prix. I think it's going to be fascinating tomorrow. Be glued to your TVs. Power shedding or not, well, that shouldn't be, load shedding or not. Just enjoy it. From Gary, myself, Fritz, putting the whole show together, and of course from Suzuki and the Penta Motor Group, we will catch you after the Spanish Grand Prix. Let's go racing.